What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Pure Evil MMA Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Evil Eddie. And as always, you know what I'm about to say. We got a special show set up for everybody with a very special guest. And you know what? I say that all the time. But you know what? On top of everything, my favorite people to talk to is other podcasters, because the way it is when you talk to fighters, you know, it's usually always the same thing. You try to break their shell. But with podcasters, we're entertainers at heart. We're looking to entertain you guys, whether you're on your way to the gym right now, on your way to work for the morning commute, maybe you're on your way home, or maybe you're sitting on the couch eating Fruit Loops right now. Whatever it is, thank you so much for tuning in, and subscribe down below here on Periscope, iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, Spotify, Player FM, wherever the hell you're listening. Maybe you're creeping outside my window right now. In that case, just give me a thumbs up, the old Amish way. But we got a special guest, Fighting With Myself podcast. What's going on, dog?
What's up, Eddie? Love the intro. Thank you so much. And just like you said, it's different when you're talking to another podcaster versus a fighter, because, you know, we're in a way colleagues or contemporaries. You know, we can talk to each other with a different understanding versus, you know, trying to, you know, crack a shell of a fighter, like you said.
Yeah, sometimes that can be really hard, especially during, like, you know, fight week or whatever it may be. But man, we got a lot to talk about.
I get hard during fight week too.
Well, you know what? During fight week, they're always so irritable because they're cutting weight and, you know, they got media obligations. There's just so much going on for them. So let's jump right into everything, man, because between just this weekend, BKFC going down, we also had UFC Boston, which, you know, I'm not going to lie, man, I kind of was pretty upset for Chris Weidmans. So let's start with the whole Weidman situation. In his last 6 fights, man, he's only won one of those fights now. Was versus Kelvin Gastelum not too long ago, but he really hasn't been the same since the Luke Rockhold fight. So how did you feel going into this fight for Chris Weidman? This was really a must-win situation for him with his back up against the wall, and a lot of people are saying, oh, since USADA came in, but you know, you take that with a grain of salt. He's never failed a test. So how are you feeling when he was set up for this fight?
Yes, I'm so glad you're talking about this, because I'm going to defend our boy Chris, okay? And I picked Reyes going into this, but that was purely based on the stylistic matchup, what I thought would happen, and it turns out I was right. But in terms of my, you know, my listeners will know this, I pick with my heart more often than not, and I really wanted Weidman to win. He's just a great guy, you know, All-American, family man, has a degree in psychology. He's really a great ambassador for the sport. Doesn't really trash talk, but still kind of, you know, entertaining. And when you talk about him being 1-6 in his last fights, it's almost not fair, because it doesn't really tell the story, I feel, of what happened. And you're right, he kind of hasn't been the same since the Luke Rockhold fight. But if you look at the fights he's lost, he was winning up until he lost, for the most part. That Romero fight. Yeah, he was winning until he got caught with that flying knee. You know, we can't really defend the Masasi fight. That was weird, but...
Yeah, that one was real weird. That one was definitely... Yeah, but you're right. He was winning every single fight leading up to just one simple mistake.
Right, and for me, I wanted Chris to go 205 for a long time. You know, he had wins over Phil Davis and Ryan Bader in collegiate wrestling, and I think that weight class was like 197 or whatever. But he always felt he was undersized. So I always kind of questioned Chris's, like, belief in himself to go to the higher weight class, and he would rather, like, cut weight and deplete himself to get to that 185 limit, but he always struggled to make it. I was like, why didn't he just bump up to 205? And he got thrown to the wolves right away. Dominic Reyes is no joke.
Yeah, that's definitely a tough one to enter the division with. And if you look at Luke Rockhold, what we were saying before, he entered the weight division. Oh, he's not going to deplete himself. This might be better for him. And yeah, he might be a little bit slower. But man, for both of these guys moving up the weight class, it's so hard to see how fast this sport can just fly by you with some of these up-and-coming contenders that a lot of people didn't know a couple years ago. A couple years ago, Chris Weidman versus Luke Rockhold, man, we were at the edge of our seats for that fight. And here's what I got to say about it. That fight with Luke Rockhold and Weidman, I wonder if all those shots that he took where Herb Dean didn't call the fight off had an effect on him. Between that and also, you know, the surgeries and there's just been so much that's happened in the last couple of years. And just like you said before, my heart goes out to Weidman because he's the everyman. You know what I mean? Like, we can all kind of relate to Chris Weidman. He's always himself. He's a great guy. But we never want to see them lose in this way.
Absolutely. And you're right. You bring up a good point about the Rockhold fight. If you look back at that fight, the third round and the fourth round, I think it was a fourth round stoppage, they ended pretty much the same way, with Luke on top, raining down elbows, and he was kind of saved by the bell in the third round. And I kind of take the road of more what you said about the injuries. The surgeries and the injuries that Weidman has had over the past few years, it's allowed him to only fight like once a year for the past couple of years, which is obviously not as often as he'd like. So I think the injuries and the surgeries really take a toll.
So let us know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below. But really quick, before we leave this topic, I want to ask you, if you're Chris Weidman, what's going through your head right now after a loss like this? And on top of it all, man, I forgot to mention this. It was his wife's birthday that night. So either way, win or lose, I'm sure that Anderson Silva, the beg legs off the bed, I'm sure that a couple of the legs on that bed got broken in half after the fight.
Goddamn right. No, honestly, I think for Chris, I kind of talked about this on my show just now before we started talking. I think Chris has nothing left to prove. You know, he really was hoping to get a shot against Jon Jones, and at this point, he's a far cry from a title shot now, and that's really what he's about. He's in it to be the best. He was a former champion, so I'm not sure what is left for him. However, I will say this. When he announced the move to 205, I was not a fan of the Reyes fight from the beginning. Yeah. I wanted to see him fight someone in like the 10 to 15 range. And I think at this point, you know, it's hindsight is 2020, and we can see that was the right move. And so at this point, I don't know if they'll do that, but if they do, I think he can have success at 205. I said this on my show. If Corey Anderson loses to Johnny Walker, that's the fight you make. Ooh. Is Weidman versus Corey Anderson, both wrestlers, both willing to stand and trade, but don't have like necessarily one punch KO power. So Weidman's not necessarily going to take too much damage. So it could be a fun fight.
Here's the other thing that we got to take into consideration. I feel like a lot of people write off as fans, and even us as media members. We need to remember that these guys are fighting the most elite fighters that there is. You know, this is the top of the top. Yeah. Every fight is going to be brutal. And like you were saying about Chris, he was winning every single fight up until making one mistake. Now, we forget that a lot. These are the best of the best. So it's you got to take it into consideration when a guy has been fighting 5 rounds for years, championship caliber fighters, number one contenders. I mean, these are tough fights. So I agree with you. Moving to 205, he probably should have got somebody, you know, a little bit below the 10 to 15 rankings. Somewhere in between there would have been nice for Weidman to enter instead of jumping right up there to the top, because people were saying, oh, you know, if he wins this fight, he could be in title contention, because you saw him calling out Jon Jones. We saw Luke Rockhold calling out Jon Jones going into this fight. And let me say this, man, I don't know if you saw it, but Jon Jones was kind of slowing slack at Weidman and Rockhold, saying, you know, before you put my name in your mouth, why don't you get by a couple of my contenders first? So and I know there's a lot to unpack there. What do you got to say to what I just said about, you know, top of the top elite and then the Jon Jones thing?
Yeah, absolutely. It's tough. You know, to be honest with you, I don't pay much attention to Jon Jones anymore, because I think his manager is really running the show, and I gotta let my bias show here. I think Jon Jones is a piece of shit human. So I'd rather just see him fight, and that's it, because he's a phenomenal fighter, and I can't deny that he's entertaining to watch. So when they book Reyes versus Jon Jones, I will absolutely be tuning in. But I literally have him muted on Twitter because I can't with some of his tweets.
Yeah. All right, so let's move forward. Let's switch gears here a little bit. The Inhalergate. For people out there that don't know, can you bring everybody up to speed on what happened in case they missed it?
Absolutely. So, right before the co-main event, there was a third fight from the main event. Greg Hardy versus Ben Sosoli. In Greg Hardy's career, he usually ends it in the first round. In his UFC debut, he went into the second, and so he's never really been to the third round. In this fight, Ben Sosoli gave him some more trouble than he was ready for, and then in between the second and third rounds, when he was on the stool, he turned to somebody that, I don't know if it was a member of the commission or if it was his cornerman, but he said, "Can I have my inhaler?" And then they said, "Is it approved?" or something like that. And he said, "Yes, you saw it approved."
And Dean Thomas had it in his pocket, just to backtrack there. He had it in his pocket. They did ask the commission. So, yeah, you're right, 100% right there.
Yeah, he had it, I guess, on his paperwork with USADA or whatever in the commission, but it's still against the rules. You're not supposed to have it in the fight. So, I mean, to me, this was a shitty situation because at that point, going into the third round, the first thing they said on the broadcast was, Greg Hardy just used an inhaler. That's illegal, right? And they brought over Mark Radner, which for those of you listening don't know who Mark Radner is, literally wrote the rules along with Big John McCarthy and some other like ringside physicians and stuff, wrote the rules on mixed martial arts because he was the former executive director of the Nevada Athletic Commission. So he knows everything. And he was like, "Yeah, that breaks all the rules."
Now, to be fair, his opponent should have had a monster or a bump of cocaine or something to keep up. Because in my eyes here, on a serious note, it didn't look like Greg Hardy was having an asthma attack or anything like that. So, obviously, it's a performance-enhancing drug when you think of it like that. Because what an inhaler has, if it's albuterol, is a steroid. So even if it's just a mental thing, even if it's just a placebo thing for his mind, it's still having somewhat of a performance-enhancing, take on what's going through Greg Hardy and his body and his mind especially. We never seen him go in the deep waters, like you said. He's always finished the fights in the first round, except for one fight where he got the DQ, a legal knee. And, the third round, he was having some pretty big breaths, and his opponent, Sosoli, was hanging in there with him. So I've never seen this happen, but somebody brought it up that, I think it was Mark Coleman. I forgot exactly who it was, but they said that it's happened before in the past. But to be fair, what you might as well give the fighters Monster energy drinks and say this break is brought to you by Monster. Throw a little ad in there. You got to pay the bills. So, yeah, what, thinking about it, it's not fair, but is it Greg Hardy's fault? Is it the coach's fault? Or is it the commission's fault? What do you have to say here?
I mean, for me, have the inhaler. If you want to take it before the fight, I got no problem. If you want to take it after the fight, I especially have no problem. But during, it absolutely has no place in there. It just shouldn't happen. And to me, this was like an oversight by the commission because they should not have been allowed to be carrying that into the cage, and then once they did, and it was used, the fight should have been called off from that moment. I mean, the fact that it even went to a third round is ludicrous, and the fact that they raised Greg Hardy's hands the other night, because now we're getting to the end of it, he wins the fight by unanimous decision, all the judges gave him the fight, and then later on they announced it was a no contest. If you had Mark Radner on the broadcast, why did you have Buffer announce his name and the ref raise his hand? It should be a no contest from right there.
It's just so weird how that whole situation went down. And, man, I'm not going to lie. I know I've said what I've said before in the past about Greg Hardy, but I've been paying attention to some of his live broadcasts that he does on Instagram, or I think he plays video games now. I still haven't checked that out. But he's kind of growing on me, man. I kind of am starting to like Greg Hardy. But this is just a situation where I don't feel like it was his fault. And somebody had the funniest tweet ever, man. It's like, it just seems like Greg Hardy just keeps on hitting the wrong things. So I thought that was right. Greg Hardy just keeps on hitting the wrong things. I thought that was hilarious. But let us know what you guys think down below here in the comments. Let's move forward because we only got a couple of minutes here left with Fighting With Myself. And I want to jump gears here. Yair Rodriguez versus Jeremy Stephens. How excited were you for this? What were your predictions before we talk about the fight itself?
I was so pumped up. They gave us blue balls last time. We were so pumped for that. We were so pumped for that matchup from the beginning. It was going to be a 5-rounder main event.
It was like getting a hand job in 8th grade at a birthday party, and then the parents come down and spoil the night, and you got to go home.
Exactly. That's exactly what that was. Yair was the fucking parents, and the girlfriend's the birthday party. Dude, first of all, the fact that it was 5
Herb
rounds
Dean was the big sister. Herb Dean was the big sister saying, "Oh no, Dad, relax. Let the party go on a little bit further." But then it got spoiled.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that it was in Mexico City at elevation, I mean, it's relevant for it's Yair's like backyard, so Jeremy would have been more motivated to take him out of there. And then the fact that it was at elevation is a huge factor in the fight. And Jeremy Stephens was out there 6 weeks prior. He was training hard. He was training with Tony Ferguson before he left, and then when he was there, he was training with 2 guys that were in the tough house with Yair, and so they knew him very well. He was so prepared for that fight, and to have it have like a little eye poke by Yair in the first 14 seconds was just a terrible situation.
Can I ask you something really quick? I don't mean to stop you there, but how did you feel in that situation? I feel like Yair Rodriguez rubbed me and a lot of fans the wrong way. The crowd kind of, went berserk. What were your thoughts in that whole situation, even him pushing Bisping?
Yes, absolutely. I was actually going to get to that, so thank you for bringing it up. The way Yair handled that, when he was on the fucking post show, being like, he has to deal with it.
He's going to have to live with this? Yeah.
I mean, are you kidding me? Of course he wanted to continue. I mean, that was just stupid. And the fact that he was calling Bisping puto and all that in the post-fight interview, and Bisping put his hand on him, just screaming at him, acting like a petulant child. I thought he was so petty in that fucking fight. And he was basically trying to duck it afterward by saying, I should have never taken this fight anyway. I'm moving on. So I was really happy when they rebooked it, because it needed to happen. Jeremy, even though Jeremy kept saying the great state of Boston, which is so wrong, but I'm glad they booked this fight. I wish we had the 5 rounds. I wish we had this extra 2 rounds, because what we got was an amazing fight, right? I mean, the 3 rounds played a factor in the fact that Yair didn't have to, conserve his energy, and he was firing those kicks at will, almost had Jeremy out of there in the 2nd round. But then Jeremy came back and beat the piss out of him in the 3rd round. So, obviously Yair wins the decision, but if it had gone to 5 rounds, I would have taken Jeremy in that fight.
That's the other thing. I mean, it was so difficult because we went from having a 5-round fight, which I feel this fight should have been, even though it was rebooked. Fuck it, have the co-main event 5 rounds because it was previously scheduled for 5 rounds. They should have made the exception for that. And I feel like it could have even brought more eyes onto this event because of the building tension between the two, the story that was unfolding right before us, and how quick we were going to be able to get that satisfaction of watching it 2 weeks later.
I agree 100%. I never even thought of that. They should have just made it 5 rounds, especially now in hindsight, knowing that the main event ended so quickly.
Oh, yeah.
We could have got those extra 2 rounds.
And I believe this is another situation where it's like Anderson Silva versus Israel Adesanya only being 3 rounds. Wish that went 5. Or am I wrong there? Well,
no, you're right, because they were the co-main, and Robert Whitaker and Kelvin Gastelum were supposed to headline, and Rob got a hernia the day of the fight. So they were bumped up to the main event, but since they hadn't been training for 5 rounds, they didn't go. Israel was ready, but Anderson couldn't do the 5. I
mean, come on, you're giving people interim titles. Why can't you give the co-main event guys when it's, these elite guys that are about to break through that door of stardom, or they have a building story that gets people to the edge of their seats that's going to put money in the pockets of the promotion and raise the star power of the fighters? Give us the 5 rounds. What's holding us back from that? Why not bring a little change like that? You know what I mean? I feel like that would have changed the fight, and like you said, I'm going to agree with. I would have picked Jeremy Stephens, but man, Yair Rodriguez all of a sudden turning that villain, which is a perfect transition to Macy Barber, which we'll talk about in 2 seconds. Final thoughts on Yair versus Stephens. What's next for Yair?
I won't see that in the beat fight. That's of course assuming that the beat gets past Calvin Kattar, which actually I think is a tough task. Calvin Kattar's got very good boxing, so maybe just the winner of that fight. I mean, I don't know that Yair versus Calvin Peter really gets me out of bed, but Yair versus Zabit is something that we wanted to see for a long time. We were promised that fight last year. Yair actually got cut from the organization. Do you remember that whole drama?
Yeah. Yair got cut by the UFC because he was acting like a little brat, saying, no, this is not true, and then gets brought back. Yeah, that was just insane.
Dana was so savage in that moment because he put that he gives some news to Lance Pugmire of the LA Times, right? Lance put out this report that Yair versus Zabit is a done deal for, I think at the time it was UFC 228 or whatever was the card in Los Angeles that year. And then Yair tweets out fake news, right? And there's this trend that the UFC has been doing, or they did at that time, where they would announce a fight before the pen was put to paper to kind of put pressure on the fighter to accept. So Yair goes, fake news. Then it comes out that they cut Yair, and Dana goes, real news. Which is just savage. But then they ended up bringing Yair back. They mended the fence. They mended the bridge. They re-signed him, and then Yair got injured. So then, which is so weird because then just a few months later, he ended up stepping in for Frank Diego on short notice to fight Korean Zombie. And we all know what happened there. That was an amazing fight. So it's craziness.
That's what I wanted to happen in this fight with Jeremy Stephens. So this really does show how improved Yair has gotten. How much he's improved. I'm sorry for the bad English there. How much Yair has improved in just the last year here. But I agree with you when you say Zabit. That would be a great fight to happen next. But man, this is what makes the UFC the best, because Dana White, man, it wouldn't be the same without him. When WME-IMG bought the company, I was nervous that we were going to lose Dana. And love or hate Dana, he has made the UFC what it is. And it's moments like that, you know, makes it feel more of alive. It makes it feel like a creature. The UFC is a living, breathing creature that isn't just fight to fight. It's an act. It's like a high school, man. The UFC is like a high school. It really is. So let's move forward, because I know you got to leave in a minute. Let's talk about Macy Barber, man. She's turning into quite the villain here. What are your thoughts on her? Because she still is very young, and now she wants to call out Paige Van Zandt. So thoughts on Macy Barber here?
Yeah, you know, I have very mixed thoughts on Macy Barber, because she's coming out hot, and she's talking a lot of shit, and she's pumping herself up, saying she wants to break Jon Jones' record of being the youngest UFC champion, with the whole, like, clock on her phone and everything. And for me, I think if she was a little bit more humble, and I have no problem with fighters being brash, and I think you have to puff your chest out a little bit, but if she would be more humble, she would probably get more credit and acceptance from the fans, because she would be just doing these things and putting goals away and being like, yeah, I work really hard, or, you know, whatever, and people would love that and be endearing toward her. Now they just kind of hate her, which I guess is good to not be indifferent, right? Like kind of a Colby Covington.
That's what I was going to say to you, man. Yeah.
So I guess she's doing something right in that regard. I mean, I like her style. She comes out to bang, and for that division, you know, you don't really see a lot of KOs or TKO stoppages. It's mostly submissions, if anything. And the way she kind of took it to to Jillian Roberts was crazy.
Yeah, man, it was so sad. I got two things to say about this. Jillian Robertson has been on the show a bunch of times in the past, and she's such a sweetheart. You know, coming from Canada, she's you know, got the hair. She's got fans building. You know, the young girls that are looking up to her. So when it was set up for Macy Barber, it was like, you know, Jillian has a chance to really be taking a step forward here as an icon or an inspiration to a lot of young girls that may be getting picked on in high school, may not look like somebody that fights, or, you know what I mean? Like, she's the every girl to a lot of these young...
I had that same those same thoughts when it was announced as well. Love Jillian Robertson. She's a great follow on Instagram. And, yeah, you're absolutely right.
Well, she's almost like the girl that stays quiet in math class. And then there's Macy Barber that's like yelling at the teacher and making fun of the guys and shit like that. And then she starts, you know, pushing Jillian up against her locker. You want Jillian to fuck her up. You know what I mean? Like, you want Jillian to just, you know, unleash the beast. But unfortunately, it almost reminded me of Amanda Nunes versus Ronda Rousey, where, when Jillian got hit, you could tell something happened there where she just kept eating shots and knew that she was in a lot of trouble, and I just kept screaming at my TV. I'm sure, a couple of the neighbors here in the city were pissed at me because I was screaming so loud that my voice was jumping to, when you scream so loud that your voice isn't even there, it's just like a silent dog whistle, like Edmund Taverdian style. Dude, I was Edmund Taverdian in the living room. Yeah, Amanda Nunes versus Ronda Rousey. I was Edmund Taverdian. Head movement! Yeah, that was me, man. So it's hard to see, but on an unbiased take here, great win for Maycee Barber. Calling out Paige Van Zant, I've seen a lot of tweets of people saying, oh, well, you want to, take the title. Well, why are you calling out somebody like Paige Van Zant? Why don't you call out somebody at the top? But then, you know what I think in my head? You beat Paige Van Zant, you might as well jump to the top because the way those rankings are in that division are just ridiculous. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you know what? Just to kind of go on the Paige Van Zandt thing, I think she really missed the mark on that. And here's why. Just exactly what you said about her being like the bully kind of and Jillian being like the sweet girl and you want to see the bully get their just desserts. Paige Van Zandt has been open in her book, in her interviews, that she was bullied as a kid, and she's very anti-bullying, and she feels the way Maycee Barber is coming at her trying to get the fight is disrespectful, and she wants no part of it. She openly said, yeah, Macy's a good fighter, and that would be a good fight, but I'm refusing to give her the shine that my brand can give her. And the fucking Maycee Barber sliding into her husband's DM. I mean, who does that?
Whoa. For the listeners out there that don't know, update them real quick on that because I love that shit right there.
Yeah, it came out that Maycee Barber was like trying to DM Paige's husband to try and get the fight. Like she would message her husband like, "Oh, what workout routine are you guys doing?" and kind of try and spit some game at Mr. Van Zandt there, Austin Vanderford, which is just so. I mean, and in terms of like a WWE perspective, not mad at it. You know what I mean? Do your thing. But in terms of the way to get the fight with Paige, that's not it. And Paige is really calling the shots because she's a bigger star as far as the UFC is concerned.
Well, you know what? She's playing that role, man. And I got to say, I love that. And even when she says, I don't want to take that fight, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that would love to see that fight, would love to see Paige Van Zandt mess her up because, honestly, I would pick Paige to win that fight. And Maycee Barber saying, I'm going to ruin her Instagram career, which I thought was really funny because Paige came out recently saying she makes more money off of Instagram than she does in the UFC. That's a talk for a different day. Let's change gears here. Let us know what you guys think about that situation down below in the comments here or on Twitter at evil_echo. That's EVIL_ECCO or at fighting with myself at FWM_POD. Changing gears here right now. Last thing here on UFC Boston. Rate it out of 10. What would you give it? I'm giving it a 6 or a 7, I'd say.
Yeah, out of 10, I was thinking you were going to say graded, like as if we were in school. I would give it like a B, maybe a B+.
Oh, I like that way. I like that way. That makes sense. Yeah, a B. Yeah, a B. I like that. I'm going to change it over. Instead of 1 out of 10, we're going to do it a grade score. Yeah, I give it a B, plays well with others. How about that?
Yeah, plays well with others. Yeah, absolutely. No, UFC Tampa the week prior was so amazing. We had tons of finishes and like fight of the night candidates. So this was, matching up with that is going to feel lackluster. But that reminds me, next week in UFC Singapore, we're going to seem even more lackluster because it's got some grappling heavy fights, if we can say that.
I know you got to leave in like 2 minutes, so we're going to really rush through the BKFC thing. I forgot about this, about UFC Boston. Joe Lozon, man, getting that first round finish, and Randy Costa, one of his students, getting the first round finish.
Now, yeah.
I've been there for Randy Costa's debut. I've been there for 3 of his 4 fights at Cage Titans, 3 of his 4 fights at Cage Titans, and he's ran through everyone in the first round in just seconds. This was amazing to see, especially how people were saying that he was overrated, got put in the UFC too quick. Now he gets the first round finish. Joe Lozon goes in there, does his thing. What were your thoughts on Joe Lozon, man? And how great did that feel to see somebody like that get a win in that sort of way? And do you think that should have been his goodbye? Because that was sort of the discussion going into this fight.
Oh, absolutely. I thought that finish by Joe Lozon was nasty, man. That was amazing to watch. And a lot of people were saying, oh, this is the guy that got finished by Chris Gritzmacher a year and a half ago. If he got finished by Chris Gritzmacher, he can get finished by a young up-and-comer. And I was like, do you think Joe Lozon is gonna let anyone take him out of there in his hometown? He said in the post-fight interview, he's like, this is my house, which I thought was amazing, because Joe Lozon normally doesn't puff his chest out, but to get him in that half Nelson and just brutalize my man's face, Jonathan Pierce, that was amazing stuff. And like you said about Randy Costa, man, his debut against Brandon Davis was fireworks. And though he didn't come away with the win that night, I knew he was going to be someone to watch. So I was very much looking forward to that fight, and he did not let us down at all.
Yeah, he's growing, man. And, if you're in the UFC and you get to that position and you have somebody like Joe Lozon that's training you, man, you're in good hands there. He's Joe Lozon. You might as well change the name of his gym to Allstate. You know what? He's in good hands over there.
Right?
But I thought that would have been a good spot for Joe Lozon to go out if that was, what he said prior, what Dana was saying. But you know how it is for these fighters, man. They get that win, they think they can do more, and he's one of the leaders in bonuses, all-time bonuses. Him and I think Nate Diaz, I believe so. Correct me if I'm wrong. But Joe Lozon is definitely one of the leaders there with 50 Gs. Let's switch gears here now, guys. Let us know what you thought about these fights down below in the comments. BKFC. And not just BKFC, but Valor BK. They're bare knuckle. This entire year of 2019 has made a splash. What are your thoughts on 2020 moving forward with bare knuckle? Is it something that's going to keep developing, or is it going to, slowly fade away? Because, we can go one of two ways. There's a bunch of organizations coming through like Valor. There's BKFC. There has been exciting fights. BKFC is trying to put on Artem versus Jason Knight 2. Let's start there. Artem versus Jason Knight 2. Does that excite you? Are you excited about that? How do you feel about that matchup there? And Vanderlei versus Werdum possibly. How do you feel about BKFC?
Yeah, Vanderlei versus anybody is must-see TV, so they haven't announced that, but I will be tuning in. And Artem versus Jason Knight 2, I will be tuning in for that as well. That first fight was bananas, so I'm absolutely looking forward to it. But in terms of your other question, it's funny. I think we talked about bare knuckle last time I was on the show as well. And on my show today, I told people to check out your interview with Cochran, because I feel like it's a good insight to the world of BKFC, or just bare knuckle fighting in general. And for me, I was thinking about this also. There was an interview that Chris Jericho did with Wany. He was saying that they just started up AEW, a pro wrestling promotion, to compete with the WWE. And he said, WWE is the WWE, and you're never going to beat them. But to even stay competitive and stay in the conversation, you got to have a lot of money behind you. You got to have a good broadcast team. Well, BKFC seems to have decent money behind them, because they're reportedly paying these fighters more than they've ever made, some of them. But I don't know about the broadcast. They're streaming on Fight TV most of the time.
Did you have audio issues last night when you were watching? Because I did.
I didn't get a chance to tune in. You sent me the link and I started watching, but then I immediately had to go because...
Bro, you just threw me under the bus there, didn't you?
I didn't say what kind of link. I think you threw yourself
I sent you
under the bus.
the Fight TV link, right?
Yeah, the Fight TV link, exactly. But that was my point. I mean, if the revenue stream is based on that, I can tell you for a fact that no one I know has paid for it. Let's just put it that way.
Oh, I love that. I love the honesty there. And last question, and then we're going to let you go after this statement. I love that you said that. I love the brutal honesty, because this is Pure Evil MMA. We got to keep it 100. Man, asking that much for a new promotion is pretty tough, especially when you got fights like, Silva versus Gonzaga. not many people, unless you're diehards, are going to be watching that. But why watch that when there's a UFC event the same night? Thoughts on that, and we'll let you go.
Yeah, I think they got to be more strategic with their bookings and the time slots. Because your audience, your demographic, if you will, is not boxing fans. Boxing purists want nothing to do with bare knuckle. It's really MMA fans and crossover fans. So when your audience has the best product out there, the biggest promotion on the same weekend, they're going to choose that instead.
Last thing, Vanderlei Silva, this is a good move for him, going over there? Because a lot of these guys, they say he's older, they go over there. Is this a good move for him?
I think so, just for the fact that, yes and no, because Vanderlei has been fighting a long-ass time. He's been taking a lot of damage. He got knocked out bad by Rampage. It might be time to call it quits, Vanderlei. But if you're still going to do it, BKFC might be the place, because you don't have the extra gloves the extra weight, getting the extra damage. Reportedly the damage from bare knuckle is more so aesthetic. You get cuts and so forth. So I like that he's not taking a ton of damage. And they have, I think, like 2-minute rounds or 3-minute rounds. So he's going to be fighting less. So that's good. And we get to see maybe vintage Vanderlei. There's clips out there of Vanderlei fighting bare knuckle Vale Tudo fights in Brazil from like the 90s or something. So this is a good move for them.
All right, guys, Fighting With Myself podcast, one of the best podcasts out there right now. Make sure to go check it out. You know what we like to do at this point in the interview. Before I move on with my show, give everybody your tags where they can find you on social media. Because, I'm not going to lie. When's your CD dropping? Because you're quite the singer, man.
Thank you, bro. Look for my album to come out 2020. But definitely follow me on Twitter and Instagram, FUM_pod. And my latest episode just dropped, so by the time you listen to this, you can check out my latest episode.
And what did you talk about on there, really quick, 10-second nutshell? What did you talk about on there for my listeners to go check out and see?
I feel like we touched on most of the stuff in this episode with I just now, but I go more in depth on the Boston card and give my picks for the Singapore. Plus, a staple of my show is something I call the Forum, which is where MMA fans from Twitter and then all around the world basically will send in little voice clips of themselves asking questions, kind of similar to what Chael has been doing lately, Chael Sonnen. And I answer those questions with a bananas ass time.
And everybody can also reach you and the community. I'm also in that community using hashtag MMA Twitter. Thank you so much for joining me once again. I always love when you come on the show. Enjoy the rest of your day. And guys, go check out Fighting With Myself podcast. I'll put the link down below here in the info. God bless, man. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll talk to you soon.
Anytime. God bless.
Have a... He meant to say good day. I didn't mean to hang up in his face, but I knew that he was in a rush. He said he had to leave at 4:45. For those guys listening to the show edited version, it's now 4:47, so I know he was in a rush, and I was trying to keep him on as long as I could, because that was a good time, man. This is why I love talking to other podcasters, other media members, because you just vibe off one another. I really miss doing the show with my boy Ted Shack, Evil and Intoxicated, which you guys can find down below in the library. But on some brighter news, next episode of Gloves Off podcast is either going to be tomorrow, maybe tonight, or Tuesday, because James has been traveling a lot. James McSweeney, my co-host, was on the season 10 of Ultimate Fighter, UFC veteran. You guys probably just saw him fight Valor BK. He was just in the biggest movie in Malaysia, sold over 10 million tickets for Sankar movie. He's going to be joining me tomorrow or the next day, maybe tonight. I will have the links for that down below, or you can find the entire library at pureevilmma.com, where you can also find some of the latest MMA news going around right now, which one of the top things that we had to discuss this week on the website was Jon Gotti III's fight getting called off. Now, let me run through this really quick, because I broke the news originally. And let me give you guys the full story of what happened. Let me change this for people tuning into the video cast. So, I think it was Thursday think it was Thursday. All right, so right now it's Sunday. I think it was Friday. Friday afternoon, I'm sitting here in the studio editing my Israel Adesanya piece, which we'll talk about in just a second here. I get a phone call from somebody inside the Jon Gotti camp. The phone call was upsetting because before you got that phone call, the person messaged me on Instagram, said, Ed, call 911. Ed, call 911, 911, emergency. So I was like, what the hell is going on? I make that phone call. And my friend on the other side of the phone says the Gotti fight is off. What do you mean the Gotti fight's off? Now, if you have your ear to the train tracks in the MMA scene, you know what a huge sensation Jon Gotti III is. Fighting under CES. He fought for Triton fights. But right now he's under CES. CES has a card coming up next Friday at the Twin River Casino, and the Gottis sell hundreds and hundreds of tickets. Last time we had the fight, I think 600 people showed up to support Jon, and I made a vlog of it. The whole journey you guys can catch at Pure Evil MMA on YouTube under the vlog section. The energy that was brought to that event was insane. They had 2 tour buses coming with people from Hollywood movies. We're talking Patrick Borriello from A Bronxo, who I've done an interview with, got to have pizza with, introduced him to my family as well. You had people, just the name itself, Gotti. You know damn well there was a ton of people there to support him. They sell tickets. And not only that, but they put on a hell of a fight. That last fight that he had, first round TKO finish. First round TKO finish. Now let me bring you guys, and I'm going to have to edit this part out. I hope this doesn't lag. Let me show you. This is going to be hard. It might be quicker if I just do this. Let me do this for you guys. This was the Jon Gotti fight from the last event. Pure Evil MMA. Got it. And you can watch this whole vlog because this is one of my favorite vlogs of the entire event. All right. I got it right on point too. Oh my God. All right. Here we go. I'm going to try to do this the best I can for you guys. I'm really going to try to line this up. Hey, mud on. I don't know how well this is going to fucking work, but we'll see. I'm sorry if you're watching live, but... that. Picks his opponent up, slams him, and then finishes him off with that TKO. The crowd was going crazy. I had my little cousin with me working cage side on press row. We weren't really cage side. The way that CES had it set up at the convention center was a little bit different. But my little cousin has autism. Now, you guys may have heard me and him play music before in the past. We have a great relationship, but I wanted to show him what it's like to be there at a fight. Know the fighters. Meet the fighters. Cover an event. And that was the perfect event to bring him to see Jon Gotti III win a fight like that. Especially when I was helping Damien and Chicky out leading up to that fight with their podcast and their interviews. That I got to meet Chuck Zito, bodyguard for Pam Anderson, boyfriend Pam Anderson, in movies, in series like Sons of Anarchy. It was just so cool to be right there following Jon going into this fight. And then afterwards, we had dinner. I brought my little cousin to dinner with Jon Gotti III's coach, Derek Panza, which we will be interviewing soon. And he was telling me at the dinner that he is so focused. Jon Gotti III is so focused leading into fights that they'll turn down interviews with ESPN. They'll turn down interviews with TMZ. They have one thing and one thing only on their mind, and that's the upcoming fight. That was a huge win. And, okay, let me jump back into this. So I got a phone call saying that Jon's out of the fight. Call 911. I call Uncle Chicky. Uncle Chicky tells me that somebody from the Gotti camp called him and wanted me to report on what was going on. Immediately jumped on Twitter. Like any journalist would do. This is what I learned in broadcasting school. You jump on your media platform and you report that news that's given to you. Especially when you get the thumbs up. Within 5 minutes, I got a message from one of the guys over at CS says, take that down. I respond, damn, okay. And I'm not one of these guys. I guess you can say a gonzo journalist, but no, I'm not a cookie cutter. So when somebody gives me a story, especially that fight camp, that says, report this, but then the promotion says, take this down, I'm torn between two worlds. But I have so much respect as an Italian that I'm going to listen to the promotion. And I took that down immediately. They told me that people were messaging them saying, is this true? I mean, this was crushing because they sold a bunch of tickets. This was a huge name to be on the card. And until it was officially announced by the promotion, I really didn't have a right to say that. But as a journalist, I kind of did like the Errol Wany thing where Brock Lesnar's fighting at UFC 200. I wanted to break this news. However, when I took it down, 16 hours later, everyone got a press release saying that Jon Gotti Jr. or Jon Gotti III had a staph infection, and they're going to be pulling him from his fight, which is very unfortunate, but a very smart move to make because in that position, you can't be risking it. You can't go into a fight and not have your vision, unless you're Michael Bisping, which, man, how do you not have respect for Bisping after what he recently showed everybody? Very unfortunate because we did want to see Jon get this fight, but a very smart move by his team. And I'm sure that, with this staph infection, it will be gone probably by Friday, but it's not worth risking. So I broke that news this week. And there was another story that came out. Conor McGregor, back in the news. Conor McGregor has changed so much in the last couple of years, it's kind of sad. But to his defense, I'm also on board with not agreeing how Conor's been representing himself with all these things, punching the old man in the face, just everything that's been going on in the last couple of years. Well, even allegedly knocking a girl up and having a child with her, and not saying it was him, not admitting to it. And saying, oh, no, that wasn't me. You were with my boys. You slept with my boys. Girl's like, no, check out this picture of us hooking up in the bathroom with your hand down my pants. people were going, oh, well, she's just looking for money. Excuse me. Well, did you see the photos of this girl? She's well off. She's got money. She was walking around with a baby in a Louis Vuitton stroller with Michael Kors bag, and she don't need money. And she even said that, I'm not looking for money. I just want my child to know who his father is. Which, if you're Conor McGregor, that's a tough place, man. You made a big mistake. And that was one of the things what we looked up to Conor McGregor back in the day was, man, he was with Dee Devlin since he was on the bottom as a plumber. And she stood with him. Now he's big and famous, and he's standing by her side when he can have all these girls. And you guys remember, after that season of Ultimate Fighter that he coached, there were photos and videos that broke of Conor, who looked real messed up, because you could put it one of two ways what he was doing. But he did have to make 145 pounds, which is another reason why a lot of people don't want to see him to make that weight, including his old coach, Coach K, saying, I never want to see Conor have to force himself to make 145 pounds again. And he looked amazing UFC 205 against Eddie Alvarez. That was the last time we saw Conor for who he was. And it was so weird. It was one of those moments where after that fight, you thought Conor was going to be unstoppable. He already was the next big thing. He was the big thing. Not anymore. All these things, and I've spoken about this before in the past, this is not somebody I would want my son looking up to. I looked up to Derek Jeter. My grandparents looked up to Roger Maris and Mickey Mantle. And I've spoke about that before on the podcast. I went, you hear that, cricket? I don't mean to cut. You hear that, cricket? I just got out the shower, looked down on the ground. The cricket is on the fucking floor of my shower. And not just one of those little crickets that you feed your little salamander pets. No, this was, it was literally, you ever see Men in Black? It was one of the crickets in the coffee room drinking coffee. What up, Jay? That was me in the shower with this thing. What up, Evil Eight? Bro, what you doing? But I love animals, all shapes and sizes. I didn't kill it. I let it chill. I even kept the door open for it. That's him coming out and say thanks. I was trapped in there all night. Thanks for opening up the door. So you're welcome, bro. But getting back. Ed, stop smoking weed. But to get back into things, guys, Conor McGregor, Dana White just came out saying Conor McGregor used to be it. He's not the man anymore. Which is nice to see. Because for so long, people were just sucking up to him. Surrounded by yes men. We heard this a lot back in the day when Ronda lost the fight against Holly. Surrounded by yes men. Conor's surrounded by yes men. He doesn't really need to fight anymore. But to his defense, to Conor's defense, okay, let's look back. He's only lost one fight so far in his last couple of fights. Yeah, there's the Nate Diaz fight. Came back, redeemed that, got the win. After that, beat Eddie Alvarez. Then he lost to Habib. Right? Is that the way it went? Is that the timeline? It's been a while since we've seen Conor in there. But yeah, that's the timeline. Beats Nate, beats Eddie, goes to boxing. That's what people are mixing in. And that's what is making Conor seem like he's not the it man anymore. If you take away what's going on outside the octagon, that is. Think about that for a second. Winner beat Nate in the rematch. Very close fight. Some people even say they scored that for Nate. After that, goes stunts on Eddie Alvarez. That was such a moment. And this is what made Conor so big. And if you guys saw my recent video or listened to the last podcast where I spoke about Israel Adesanya being the next big star and what is he missing, this is what he's missing right now. He could get it sometime soon. He definitely does have it in his area where, he's from. But I'll never forget my bankers talking about this. The ice cream man talking about this. My mom rented the pay-per-view on her own. My dad and sister rented the pay-per-view on their own. This is before the Mayweather fight. Then he goes into the Mayweather fight. Everyone was talking about this. Yeah, Conor lost that fight, but don't lie. Don't sit here and lie to me. Conor was doing great in that fight. Now, don't give me the Nate Diaz answer. Yeah, Mayweather was letting him do that. No. Conor was doing amazing in that Mayweather fight. I scored almost every round for Conor. I don't know how those judges saw the fight. I think one judge gave Conor one round, which is crazy to me. But after that, he goes back to fight Khabib. Loses in the 4th round, which is still impressive. Still very impressive. Even though Conor lost that fight, he lost in the 4th round. Look how tough it is to get past the 2nd round with Khabib. Look at Khabib's last couple of fights. And tell me that wasn't impressive. I don't want to see Conor take Khabib on again. I definitely don't want to see that. I don't think he could win that fight. But I also feel like Dana White is kind of pushing the buttons of Conor to try to get him motivated again. He wants to see the Conor the real Conor, the motivated Conor that was practicing every aspect, every day, obsessed with the sport. And it all came from an injury that he had before it. Conor got injured. He was out the cage for a while. And he sat there watching old fights and watching videos of animals fighting, I remember him saying. And he was obsessed with the movements of them. Then he hired Ido Portal, which ended up being a big joke in the scene. But think about that for a second. Since Conor fired Ido, I'm not saying you should hire him again, but I think he was on somewhat of the right path there. Because since he started training boxing, he seems a little bit more stiff, not as loose, not as flowy. I'm not a coach. This is just what I have seen. I would love to see Conor get motivated again. But now there's been reports that a sexual assault went down and they're putting the blame on Conor. Now, you're innocent until proven guilty here in America. But when this kind of stuff happens over and over and over, he's turning into Jon Jones now. Worse. Well, that's kind of hard to say. He's turning into Jon Jones now. I don't know. What do you guys think? Is he worse than Jon Jones? He hasn't popped yet, but he also didn't hit a pregnant woman, which is another thing. I have something to admit to you guys. There's a couple ways I can say this. I was driving to the city a couple years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, and the light was changing red. Turned orange. I was about to go under the light. As the light changed orange, the other car, so I'm going this way. Now this is a 4-way stop. So 1, 2, and then cars coming this way. I'm trying to go straight. There was a car coming forward towards me that didn't have their blinker light on, but turned as I was going through the light, hit the back of my car, which is even more proof that it wasn't my fault because she started turning after my car was already ahead. Found out there were 6 people in that car, and she was pregnant. When she hit me, I swerved, almost hit the people on the side of the road waiting for the bus. This is crazy. I got out. They saw I had a bunch of money in my little cup holder. They're like, yeah, I won't press charge, or I won't say I'm injured if you give me $20. Bro, here's $20. 3 more people come up. Oh yeah, me too. Here's $20. But that's not the first thing I did. First thing I did was go up to the car and make sure the pregnant woman was okay. I didn't run from the scene. But in John's defense, he didn't know the woman was pregnant. He shouldn't have had no reason out there driving intoxicated, smoking weed, which really isn't that bad. But he had no reason to be out there, and he certainly had no reason to run. That's what pissed everybody off. Whether the lady was pregnant or not, he had no reason to run. You're a scumbag for doing that. Take your blame. Own up to it. Conor hitting old men, bad. Conor throwing dollars through windows, bad. Conor knocking girls up, having a child with them, and saying it's not his, that you screwed my boys, bad. He's out of control. Showing up to your press conference 2 days before your fight with Habib, promoting your whiskey, bad. Bad. I'm glad that Dana White is saying what he's saying. Conor doesn't need to fight anymore, but I do want to see him get back in there. I want him. This would be so sad to see two of the top stars of this era in the last couple of years leave on these terms. Ronda Rousey losing Holly Holm the way she did, and then coming back and knocked out by Amanda. Going to WWE, doing her thing, never to come back, left a sour taste in a lot of her fans' mouths. I know there's a ton of people out there that wanted that to happen. They were excited that happened. Don't want her to come back. I feel a little differently about that. I don't want to see Conor McGregor go out this way. Let me know what you guys think. I know there's going to be a lot of mixed reviews out there. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. What else do we have to talk about today here on the podcast? I mean, really nothing else besides next week's fights that are coming up, which Fighting With Myself podcast did bring up. Now I lost my phone. What is next week? Isn't it Damian Maia versus Askren? Let me see. I think that's it. UFC Fight Night, Saturday, October 20th. No, that's today. Hold on. Saturday, the 26th. Damian Maia versus Ben Askren. Let's see. Let's take a quick look at this fight card, and then we can end the show. But this has been a great episode so far. There's been so much to talk about. I really am interested what you guys think about Weidman, what you guys think about Greg Hardy and the Inhaler. So make sure you guys tweet me about this. All right. UFC Fight Night, Maia versus Askren, Saturday, October 26th, 8 a.m. Singapore. UFC, what are you doing? 8 a.m. 8 a.m. on Saturday. No. I'm not into this. Co-main event, Michael Johnson versus Stevie Ray. Frank Camacho versus Beneil Dariush. What else is on here? Oh, man, I don't know about this card. Randa Marcos versus Ashley Yoder. Okay. Alex White versus Rafael Fiziev. Enrique Barzola versus Mozvar Evolev. Maurice Green returning against Sergey Pavlich. Man, not really the most exciting card. But the one fight I really want to focus on here, well, the main and co-main event, definitely sick. Even Frank versus Beneil, that's going to be a good one that I'm looking forward to. But Damian Maia versus Ben Askren, that's a fight that I'm interested in seeing. We'll see what Ben Askren can do here in this fight, if he can redeem himself, because the first couple of fights that he's had in the UFC, the first one being up against Robbie Lawler, where he suffered a brutal first minute in that fight, ends up getting the submission win over Lawler, who apparently wasn't out, gave the thumbs up, which we can debate all day about. Well, Ben Askren has a lot to prove here, and I feel like if he loses this fight, it's a lot of people are going to write him off. And I've had people tweet me on Twitter saying, you know, he's overrated, this and that. No, what are you talking about? Ben Askren's overrated. He hasn't fought UFC caliber fighters. Excuse me, go back and look at Ben Askren's record, okay? Go back and look at his record. Yeah, he lost the fight in 5 seconds, which is embarrassing, which I really don't have much to say, but shit happens in this sport. Shit like that happens in this sport. This is a big fight for him going against Damian Maia, and Damian Maia's been on a skid as well. This is a good matchup for Ben Askren. Just like Fighting With Myself podcast to say, kind of aimed towards the grappling section. On top of it being 8 a.m., not too excited about this, but we will be covering it and we will be letting you know. Guys, that does it for the podcast. I really don't even want to talk about that card. I'm not really that excited about it either. I do believe there's Bellator coming up next weekend as well. Here in Connecticut, actually. Also, PFL going down last week. I think it's another event this weekend. Gotta double check on that. I'll let you guys know on social media. But guys, ghost stories. MMA ghost stories. If you haven't seen episode 1 and 2 of Justin the Fort Sumner, who says there was a demon in the corner of his room that held him down in his bed, not once, but twice, and had yellow eyes. Go check it out, pureevilmma.com. Or on my Instagram, at pureevilmma_. Go to my IGTV. I just started that up where I'm releasing clips. I also spoke about the Israel Adesanya being the next big star, which you guys heard on the last podcast, but I cut that clip out, uploaded it to YouTube and IGTV. Guys, that does it. Follow me on Twitter at evil_echo, EVIL_ECCO. Also on Facebook at pureevilmma, and on Instagram, pureevilmma_, like I said, and Twitter, pureevilmma page at pureevilmma_ and pureevilmma.com. I'm winded from that. I'm Evil Eddie from Pure Evil MMA, pureevilmma.com. Remember, without evil, there's no purity. White knuckles till the end.